Today I'm going to be reacting to what if Gumball never met
Gumball
Darwin.
goldfishes? Or what if Gumball stuck with the original goldfish? There are so many questions that can pop up in your mind about this, but today we're going to be going over all of this and theorizing about it. Let's start off with
The
Gumball's
show just
childhood,
wouldn't be the same.
as the majority of his childhood was actually influenced by Darwin heavily. This inseparable friendship would begin in the origins, where we would learn that Gumball was acting really destructive around the house and overall misbehaving. So Richard and Nicole decided that it was only right if they brought Gumball some sort of pet fish so that he could get distracted from being destructive, and they ultimately decided on a goldfish. However, Gumball's destructiveness kicked in, and Richard had to replace the goldfish 6 times.
Bro, you're poisoning it by putting paint
Now,
on
after
it.
the 5
Why would you
different
do that?
replacements of Darwin, the pet store literally ran out of goldfishes. So obviously, Richard resorted to the Awesome Store, and he would end up getting sold a human goldfish that would eventually go on to become Gumball's adoptive brother and best friend after many ups
Human
and downs
goldfish?
throughout the beginning of their
Interesting.
friendship. And from here, we would finally give Gumball a friend that he can actually hang out with and get distracted with for the rest of his childhood, leading over to middle school. However, now let's take a look at what Gumball's childhood would be if Darwin never came into the picture. Starting off with the fact that Gumball probably would still be insanely destructive, as he would have nothing to actually distract him as a kid, therefore leading to him growing up as a troubled child. As before he met Darwin, his childhood was looking rough for the mischievous side of things.
Gumball, stop using my bikini to catapult oranges at your dad.
Okay, interesting choice of words.
I didn't mean put everything in the washing machine.
So yeah, it's safe to say from this episode alone that Darwin genuinely helped Nicole and Richard out heavily by coming into the family, as if he never did, best believe that Richard and Nicole would have a very hard time dealing with all of Gumball's shenanigans. But Darwin helping Nicole and Richard leads us to the next part of this theory, which is Gumball's teenage life without Darwin, aka the life that we actually see take place in the show. Now, as we all know by now, in almost every Gumball episode, we see Gumball get into some sort of problem either with or without Darwin, and at the end, he ends up solving the problem in a ridiculously wacky way. However, if you haven't already noticed, every time Gumball is in some sort of conflict, Darwin always steps in to try to make Gumball do the right thing, as usually, Gumball thinks of some crazy solutions that will either make the situation worse or get Gumball in a lot more trouble. And due to Darwin's presence, Gumball is actually able to stay out of a lot of trouble, which genuinely benefits Gumball a lot. And we actually get to see how it would be like if Gumball didn't have Darwin's advice in his life in multiple episodes. One of them being the rerun, where Darwin warns Gumball that seeing the future isn't a good thing and will just cause problems.
Yes, and things are about to get. No! Whatever you say could alter the future in some terrible way.
Yeah, but whatever you do in the present does that anyway. Look, you just need to know that.
Here's a
I
point.
refuse to know.
And
Here's a point. Whatever we're doing now can affect the future. Like, for example, if well, this is an obvious reason. If you commit a crime, it's not like years in the future, maybe a few days, maybe weeks, you're gonna be in jail. But what he's referring to here is probably like years, but here's the point. When people do crimes, they get punished a few days later, weeks, months when it comes to court, but you're still going to get jail time, and then they'll take you out of jail to go to court, and then you go back to jail if you're guilty and all that. So yeah.
Gumball did not listen to Darwin,
Here's a point.
which led to Gumball essentially being tortured by Rob and almost falling into the void. So overall, it's pretty clear that Gumball needs Darwin's advice, or else things will go south basically every single time that Gumball is in some sort of problem. But now that we're on the topic of Gumball's teenage life without Darwin, let's cover how Gumball would feel without Darwin in his life. And we actually get to see this in the distance, where we see Gumball and Darwin being weirdly intimate with each other, doing things such as feeding each other and spitting food in each other's mouths,
That's disgusting.
and are quite literally attached to each other.
Okay, buddy. Yeah, it's so disgusting.
Eggs are a little too salty.
I'll take those for you.
Oh, expose myself a little bit here, but me and my friends, it's weird because I would never do this with my close friends. These are just high school friends that I've only met like 3 years ago. We share things all the time, but not in this way. We would like drink from the same thing. We would eat the same food. Chips is different. I mean, like an actual meal or whatever. We would drink out of the same cup through the same straw and all that. Like, if we get sick, we don't really care. No school for us. But we would never spit our food into each other's mouths. I'm pretty sure no one would do that. Like, that's just disgusting. So that is too much. I crossed the line at that. At spitting food in each other's mouth. I would eat the same food as someone else. I would drink the same drink as someone else. But I would not spit it out into their mouth.
Yeah, this is clearly some very homo activity coming from both brothers. So Nicole obviously puts a stop to this by making Darwin move out of Gumball's room and building his own awesome man cave in the basement. However, this wouldn't go well, as Darwin was simply sleeping downstairs. Gumball genuinely felt lonely and couldn't sleep right without Darwin.
Hello?
Hey man, sorry I had to call. I just can't sleep by myself up here. Tell me everything you've done since we last talked and don't skip a single detail.
Well, I, breathed a couple times.
Oh, that's so you. All these adventures you're experiencing. I'm missing them. I miss our games.
Well, we could pretend.
What do you mean?
It would even get to the point where Gumball started getting jealous after seeing Tobias and Banana Joe in Darwin's man cave, making Gumball think that Darwin is quote-unquote cheating with him, when all along they were simply helping Darwin build a little area for Gumball to hang out. Now, that episode was definitely one of the weirdest Gumball episodes ever produced, as the writers made both brothers act like they were in a relationship with each other. But putting the weird stuff aside, this episode truly shows us how Gumball would feel without Darwin in his life. Gumball was quite literally feeling alone and depressed when Darwin simply moved downstairs. You can just imagine how he would feel if Darwin wasn't in his life. And to add on to everything, in reality, Darwin is Gumball's only real friend, as everyone else in Elmore is more of a acquaintance to Gumball rather than an actual friend. So if Gumball never had his only friend in his life, we can easily predict that after this episode, Gumball would have some heavy depression and feel lonely all the time. Judging by the fact that throughout the whole show, Gumball has rarely tried to make another real friend to actually stick with, which shows that he's more of an introvert than an extrovert. And this leads me back to the topic we were talking about earlier, which is how Gumball would have stayed destructive if it wasn't for Darwin, which leads me to my next theory, which is how Gumball's destructiveness would have led him to grow up to be a bully, instead of actually being the one who gets bullied by characters such as Tina Rex and Tobias. The reason why I say this is that Darwin actually helps Gumball stand up for himself, and really showed him how it felt to have a friend that cared for him. And if Gumball didn't have this, it's likely that he would act very differently towards others, and most likely bully people at Elmore Junior High, due to the fact that most bullies out there commonly bully other people due to not having many friends. So it's clear that
Honestly, it depends on the bully, and it's kind of come from someone who's never been bullied, because I don't go to those kind of schools. I literally go to a private school, so like it's a little different. But I would just like ignore them, or just like, this is probably something you shouldn't do, but depending on the person, it might work. Actually, don't do it. I was gonna say like roast them, like make fun of them. Like, I have friends, you know. You're just mad at me because of your own. I don't know. It depends. It depends on the person. I feel like doing stuff like that gives them a more of a reason to bully you because you're making them mad. But I don't know. I feel like some bullies would just get soft from that.
Gumball
The majority
would have been a
probably won't.
completely different person without Darwin.
So this probably
But now that we're on the
good
topic
to
of
not do
Gumball's
that.
social life without Darwin, let's theorize on who Gumball would actually be friends with if he were to go out of his way to make friends. Now, throughout the show, we have obviously seen Gumball be friends with multiple characters, for one episode only. However, judging by all these episodes we've seen, Gumball actually gets along really good with Banana Joe and Bobbert. Now, while we've seen Banana Joe and Gumball be rivals at times, we actually actually see them get along a majority of the time, such as in the banana, where Gumball literally pretends to have gotten beaten up by Banana Joe so that they could make amends with Banana Joe after the whole pen chewing situation and end off on good terms.
What happened?
You kicked our butts like a beast. That's what happened.
Awesome. Oh, I'm sorry. How did it ever come to this?
Along with this, there have been many other instances where we see Banana Joe and Gumball bond, even with them having their awkward moments. But Bobber, on the other hand, has a very good bond with Gumball throughout the show, hence why he can also be considered a friend to Gumball if Darwin wasn't there. And we see them bond really well in the upgrade, where Bobber ends up getting updated by Gumball and Darwin to a new version. However, this version just wasn't Bobber, as he was emotionless and lacked a personality, and all of that led to Gumball and Darwin going out of their way to get the real Bobber back, even landing the boys to admit that Bobber isn't a product and is truly their friend.
And here we are.
Wait a minute, that's not our Bobber.
Well, I upgraded your product.
But Bobbert is not a product. He's our friend.
Yeah, he's not something you can just replace.
Now, that scene was definitely wholesome to see, as Gumball accepts Bobber no matter the circumstances of Bobber not being a real human, which shows that Gumball and Bobber would be a good duo without Darwin. Putting all these theoretical friendships aside, we've definitely seen by now that Gumball would be a completely different person without Darwin in his life. And quite frankly, Darwin has had a huge impact on Gumball's life, and they cannot and will not be separated. Well, that's about all I got. Because you made it to the end of the video.
Anyway, so yeah, that's gonna be the end of the video. Bye, guys.